include El Mirage, Sun City West, Surprise, Waddell, and Youngtown. My name is Raul Sada. I wanted to thank everybody for attending today's call. And I wanted to thank all the viewers who are on YouTube and Facebook as well. Today, we're going to be hearing from three cities that have mayors in the Northwest Valley. And so our special, those mayors are Mayor Hermosillo from El Mirage, Mayor Hall from Surprise, and Mayor LeVault from Youngtown. And today's special moderator will be Chris Herring. Chris is the Director of Strategy and Operations for the University of Phoenix, serves on the Board of Directors for the Surprise Regional Chamber of Commerce. And Chris is also chairs our Government Relations Committee. So with that, Chris, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and let you begin today's chat with our prestigious guests.
Thank you, Raul. And thank you to the mayors that are with us today. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right in. It's going to be a Q&A format. We'll mix it up as we go and let each of you take turns going first and so on. I like to start these out a little bit on a lighter note, a little bit more interest in not necessarily a city government or policy. And I think we can all appreciate that the last year since we've had our last Fireside Chat has been anything but normal. And I know each of you has had your own challenges leading your cities as we've gone through some difficult times. So to start out, a question that we like to ask, just to see how your answers change year to year, is the favorite thing about your city, specifically just day-to-day life. What do you love about your city and living there? And I'll start with Mayor Hermosillo first. What do you love about El Mirage?
Hello. First of all, thank you so much for having me in this conversation. It's always such a pleasure to engage in events with the Chamber. And so I'm just very excited to share more information about what's going on in the city of El Mirage and all of our growth. But to answer your question, one of my favorite things right now about living in our city, in the city of El Mirage, is the expansion and growth that we're experiencing, not only as a city, but in the West Valley as far as economic development is concerned. El Mirage has more than 800 employment opportunities within the next 2 years. And so there's a lot of growth and development when it comes to business. And just recently, we broke ground on the Tittman Innovation Project located off of Dizer and Joe Ramirez Roads. And this is actually a state-of-the-art cold storage facility, which will be 320,000 square feet of a building, which is approximately about the size of more than 5 football fields. And this is currently the largest single building in El Mirage. So that's a very exciting project for our city. And another one that I want to note is our Microsoft Data Center Phase 1 is operational, and the second phase will begin construction soon with another 254,000 square foot building. And the second phase will add an additional 50 high-tech jobs, which will make for 100 high-tech jobs in total. But the really neat part about this project is that this project will be the most technologically advanced data center in the Microsoft family. So having something like that in our city is very, very exciting. And on top of that, we are moving dirt. We are going vertical with other projects. And so again, just the expansion and the growth that we are experiencing, especially having been here all of my life and just being able to see our city progress in the way that it has been and that it's going, is just very, very exciting.
Well, that is fantastic to hear. And it sounds like, Raul, maybe we've got a tour in order for the largest building in El Mirage in our future. Some of you out there might say, do you really want to go to a cold storage facility? But yeah, that sounds exciting, man. Mayor, you made it sound exciting enough to say, let's go see it and show people what it is. So love hearing all that. Love hearing about the job growth, the high income potential jobs, and what's going on in El Mirage. That's great to hear. Mayor Hall, what do you love about Surprise? What do you love about living here?
Well, primarily what I love about Surprise is that we're clean, safe, and friendly. And the challenge that we have with our growth, because we're experiencing a lot of growth, is keeping it that way. keeping ahead of the curve in terms of hiring fire people, police, and keeping our streets clean, and keeping a hometown feel with our residents, making them feel friendly and welcome, not only if they're a resident, but if they're a visitor, etc. So that's on the primary level. Secondarily, I would say what I love about Surprise is the recreational and restaurant opportunities that are here. It's a great city for restaurants, and the recreational opportunities abound with our tennis facility and baseball facility and our parks, etc. So it's a great city.
Yeah, absolutely. And Surprise is my home. So I like hearing that. And I'll give a plug for one of your new businesses. You got Crumble Cookies coming in right down the street. And I know it's a tiny, you're like, it's a micro business, but
Yeah, that's
for me,
great.
it'll be an every week business.
Oh yeah, no, I understand. You bet.
Yeah, I love seeing those businesses coming to Surprise, El Mirage, and Youngtown, and I don't have to drive anywhere else to get some good food and entertainment now. So love seeing the West Valley grow and mature. Mayor LeVault, finish off this question for us.
All right. Well, I can tell you, even though I spent, or I should say, even though I grew up on the south side of Chicago, I spent almost my entire adult life living in small towns and cities across the Midwest, and now in Youngtown. And Youngtown is really quintessential small town America. We are a truly walkable, writable city, not necessarily in July and August, but we are compact in size, and so we're easy to navigate and get around. Our location is ideal. We're about halfway between the 101 and the 303. I can be virtually anywhere in the valley in 30, 40 minutes, as long as DPS isn't watching me very closely. I can tell you that Youngtown is truly a microcosm of the valley. Most of you probably know Youngtown was the original retirement community, incepted in 1954, incorporated in 1960. Lost its age overlay in 1998. And since then, our demographics have shifted massively. And so we truly are a microcosm of what's happening in the rest of the valley. We are a relatively safe community. No one is absolutely 100% safe in today's world, but we have moderate crime. Most of the crime that we have, just like the rest of the Northwest Valley, are crimes against property. And that's one of the things I love about being in Arizona. So far, we as a state, and certainly as a microcosm of the state here in the greater Phoenix region, we are a bit of an oasis when you look at some of the madness that's playing out in states around us and back east. The negatives that we're seeing here are really quite moderate. We are still a very much safe community and region, and I hope we stay that way for a long, long time. We have a lot of economic projects in the pipeline. We have a couple of new subdivisions that will come to fruition in 22. We're also working on a large battery storage facility that will be tied to the El Sol substation on Olive Avenue. And that's an interesting concept because, as you know, APS now has committed to, I think they're committed to going 100% renewable by 2050. If I'm still around then, I'll be interested to see how close they come to that. But if they come anywhere close to that goal, these battery storage facilities are going to be ubiquitous. There'll be, many, many locations throughout the greater Phoenix region. With us being the first, or one of the first to open of this size anyway, we're having to work closely with fire departments in the Northwest Valley to make sure that this facility is being built safely and that it's protected against what they call in the industry propagation. In case there's a fire, you don't want the whole facility to go up. So we're literally working with our fire marshal and other fire departments to, in a sense, create cutting edge technology. And I could go into that later, but that's an interesting concept. So a lot going on in Youngtown. As I said, we are well located. We are definitely a big booster of what's happening regionally, and believe that we have to continue to act as a region to be successful. So here we are.
Awesome. And I love opening up with questions like that because each of you you take it a little different direction, and we get to kind of see what's on your mind and what are you proud of. So thank you all for sharing that. Mike, we're going to stay with you because the next thing I want to talk about is just more personal and kind of going back into your all history a little bit and what got you wanting to get involved with local city government. And the reason I'm starting with you is because you've been in your particular office the longest of the three mayors on today. Doesn't mean you've been in politics the longest, doesn't mean you're the oldest necessarily, but you've held this office for a longer tenure than Mayor Hall or Mayor Hermosillo. So what got you involved in city government? What was the big motivation to jump in?
Well, you know, interesting, you say I have the longest tenure of those on the call here as mayor. Many of my residents might say I've been here far too long. But anyway, yes, since December of '06, I've been in office as mayor. I'll tell you what, the thing that I've learned, the most important thing I've learned about government, just government in general, is that the local level, that is the school board level, the city town council level, those are the levels where citizens are most likely to get involved and have some real input and some real feedback. And I think that's just so critical for our democracy that we, as local governments, we remain as transparent and as willing to include as many people as possible going forward. My story, to give you the elevator speech version, was I became the HOA president at the transfer date of my HOA community. And that caused me to start attending town council meetings. And I sat there for a year and watched how things were being mismanaged, and finally stepped up and ran a recall. And we actually recalled a mayor, vice mayor, a council member, and then forced a fourth council member to resign. So we flipped 4 seats on a 7-member council. You know, it's been interesting. I'll put it that way. Especially these days, government is an interesting proposition, but that's a quick overview of how I got where I am and why I chose to get involved. We need thousands of people now across this country that are willing to step up and get involved in local government. Like I said, school boards, city and town councils, even state legislatures. We have massive challenges that we face as a country and as a state. And we need as many good people as possible willing to go into government.
Yeah, I totally agree. And all three of you and the councils you have, they're very responsive. I love living in the West Valley because there is a true open door to the citizens to come in and share. And you know, all 3 cities really want to know what people would like to see happen. So love hearing that. Mayor Hall, let's go to you next. What got you involved in city government?
Well, it started with volunteering for the Planning and Zoning Commission. I was on the Planning and Zoning Commission for 3 years. At the same time, I was treasurer of the HOA that I live in. And so one thing led to another. And after 3 years being on the Planning and Zoning Commission, some people came to me and said they wanted to recall a city councilwoman. And I said, well, okay, don't you have to get signatures for that? And he said, well, yeah, we need to get signatures. I said, well, why don't you get the signatures and then we'll talk about it? Because I had no plans of getting involved in city government other than the Planning and Zoning Commission. But as an elected official, I had no plans for that. But these people got the signatures in 5 days. And they came back to me and said, we got the signatures, here they are. So you're our guy. I said, okay. So I ran and I won. And so I've been on the council since 2008. And then I became mayor when the previous mayor resigned, and then I just got elected this last year for a 4-year term. So that's how I got involved, and I couldn't agree more. Mike LeVault is much more articulate in talking about involvement and how people should be involved in local government. I totally agree with everything that Mike said. Our democracy is at risk. And when we're taking hits from different people that want to destroy our country, frankly, and we need good, solid people being in local government, on school boards, and in city government to push back on that. Local government it's not partisan, as you know, Chris. I mean, a hole in the road doesn't care if a Republican fixes it or a Democrat fixes it. Just fix the hole in the road. And if the stoplight goes out, fix the stoplight. I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican or independent, fix the stoplight. And that's what's great about city government, is that we don't have this partisan kind of stuff going on. We just take care of the residents, and we're a service organization. So anyway, that's the end of my speech. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Hermosillo, we're gonna finish this one with you. And I believe you've had the least tenure. Well, I know you have at least tenure as mayor, but I think you have at least tenure in office in general. And so share a little bit about your story, getting involved in local government and then eventually become the mayor of El Mirage.
Yeah, so what motivated me really stems from my passion for people and public service. And I feel like that's very reflective in the career opportunities I've had prior to becoming mayor. For example, before becoming mayor, I worked for the largest public transportation company in Maricopa County. And so through that avenue, I was able to provide transportation opportunities to residents. And even prior to that, I was a district representative for Arizona Congressional District 3, where a lot of my work was constituency focused. And so doing a lot of work for residents. And so, but not only that, I very much think my passion for people and public service, paired with being a very proud fifth generation El Mirage resident and wanting to wholeheartedly serve the community that raised me, really set me on a path to wanting to pursue city government. And so while I am the least tenured person in my position, I will say I have 31 years of dedication and passion for people. And so I feel like that has fueled me up until this point. It will continue to fuel me for years to come.
Now say again, how many generations has your family been in El Mirage?
I am a fifth generation El Mirage resident. So we have been here for 5 generations.
Wow. Can you know, Mayor Hall, Mayor LeVault, neither, Mike, you said you were from Chicago. Skip, how long has your family been in Arizona?
I moved here in 2003 from Southern California. So, you know, that's it's amazing. You know, Mayor Hermosillo has been here a lot longer than both of us. They're in her family. My whole family's in California, really, except for I have a daughter and a grandson there. But the rest of them are in California and back east, really. So I don't know. Mike, do you have any family here?
Absolutely none. I moved here in December of 05. No, December of 04, I think it was.
Okay.
A new person on the block too, so to speak.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Mayor Hermosillo, that's amazing to hear. You don't find many 5 generations back, and if I went 5 generations back, I'm still back in Ireland. So
yeah, right.
That's amazing to hear, and truly home in the Northwest Valley here. So well, let's
go ahead very quickly. So when I mentioned earlier, to see one of my favorite parts about being in El Mirage is seeing the growth, and that is because we've been here for so long, and so seeing just the progress is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's stay with you, Mayor Hermosillo. Let's talk about kind of a secret menu here. That's what I like to call it. I'm a lover of secret menu. If you haven't figured it, I'm a food guy. So if you want to weigh in my heart, open new restaurants in your city, and I'll love you. And all of you are. So, but let's talk secret menu here, and let's talk about the secret thing or the unknown thing that flies under the radar in your city that you wish people knew about. You know, what's going on in El Mirage, Youngtown, and Surprise that you're like, you know, I wish people knew about it because, you know, I tell people all the time about this. What's that thing for you, Mayor Hermosillo?
So it's so funny that you mentioned restaurants are your thing, and business development for sure is my thing, which I feel it goes hand in hand. But one of the things I wish people knew about our city is Almirage has the youngest average in the West Valley at 29 years old. And so knowing this information, council and staff can implement policies and attract development and secure workforce needs that complement our residents and their families. And so knowing how old our community is as far as age per person is something that really helps us when it comes to business development, attracting the needs that we have in our city.
Awesome. And yeah, that's something most people don't know. And yeah, you have a very young demographic for sure. I've done that research myself a few times. So Mayor LeVault, what's the one thing you wish people knew about Youngtown?
Well, I guess our secret is really not a secret. We, since I've been mayor, we've run this town with good old fashioned traditional conservative values. And so we took a town that was literally on the ropes fiscally when I was elected. That's one of the big reasons I ran. And we've turned that around, and now we're debt free. We have a very healthy rainy day fund. All of our infrastructure is modernized and well maintained. We have a very light tax burden. We've not raised anyone's taxes. And so we have a small compact town. And in a sense, we are essentially landlocked. So our opportunities for, the large new stadia, new shopping centers, new industrial parks is pretty limited. But we're doing some things, I call it doing what Tempe did for a while, writ small. That is, they stopped annexing and they turned inward, and they focused on enhancing quality of life. And that's what we're all about. Whether you're here raising a family or here wanting to live your life in quiet enjoyment in retirement, we want to provide the safest, the most navigable community that we can possibly provide to people. And so not much of a secret, but that's the policy or policies that we've pursued, and they've served us well.
Awesome. Well, let's shift gears towards some more, I guess, more serious topics of city government, because I think there's some questions out there that people want to hear about, business owners as well as just the residents.
Before we go there,
go ahead.
You didn't ask me that question.
I didn't.
No.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway,
Mayor, I was going to let you start the next one, but no, I want to know. I feel like I know all the secrets and surprise. So, but I want to know. Okay, what's the secret sauce and surprise here?
From my perspective, really the secret sauce is the abundance and talent of the local workforce. It's a really hidden secret, and especially with the growth of Ottawa University and Westmec, our big trade school. Okay, so those are. That's one. Two is that we started really as a retirement community. That's where our real growth was back in the 90s. We have so many families in Surprise now that we're not a retirement community by any means. There are 10,000, just to give you an example, there's 10,000 kids in Surprise under the age 6. Okay, just to give you an example. Okay, there's another 10,000 that are between the ages of 6 and 10. So there's 20,000 kids under the age 10 in Surprise. That's not very well known. That's a secret. Okay, and so it just shows you how family oriented we are. We still have a reasonably sized senior community, but we're not a senior community anymore.
Yeah, and I definitely love that. I have 2 kids under 6, and we've been in Surprise for 13 years.
Yeah.
But we just moved to the new Marley Park expansion, and it's all young families up and down the street. Everyone's got young kids, grade school age kids. So it's great to see that Surprise, and it's definitely not what people think of Surprise from 20 years ago. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Mayor Hall, we'll stay with you, and I apologize. I'm like, oh my goodness, how can I miss surprise?
Right, that's all right.
Well, let's talk about the current state of the city coming, and I'm going to use my words very carefully here. I'm going to say coming out of the pandemic. I don't want to say after the pandemic, because I know there's still a lot of people out there that are experiencing the influences of it in various ways, as business owners, as families, as loved ones may be sick, and so I want to be very clear that I'm not saying we're out of the pandemic. But I would say things have shifted from where they were if we had this conversation in August of 2020. And so I want to hear from each of you on what's going on with each of your cities in terms of as we're shifting, and hopefully we all hope in the near future can say we've put the pandemic behind us, and what's going on with the city and just as the pandemic has shifted into a new phase. So Mayor Hall, I'll let you go first.
Okay. Thank you, Chris. Well, I kind of narrow it down to three things. One is we're really aggressively supporting small business through our economic development department. And just to give you an example, we did this last year, we have done 62 free small business events in this last year. We've also done 27 ribbon cuttings of small business. So it's a way that we welcome small business into Surprise. In other words, the small entrepreneur that put their savings at risk, we want them to succeed in Surprise. And so we want them to feel welcome. And that's the way, that's a way we do it through our economic development department. They do a super job. And then number two, we want to finalize the acquisition of the water company that we are in escrow with. Because water is very important, as you know, Chris, for growth. And to ensure our growth, we need that water. And that company's got over 4,000 acre-feet of water from the Colorado River. So that will help ensure that. So that's number two. And number three, we want to just ensure that we as a city council, we're very business friendly, but we just want to make sure that we ensure that the climate is right to attract and retain businesses. Okay. And that's our responsibility as a city council. And you'd be surprised how many business people look at council meetings and say, and look at the council and say, if we do business in that city, are they going to treat us fairly? Are they going to be welcoming? Or are they going to be restrictive and non-growth and tough on licensing and tough on permits, et cetera? And so that's our responsibility as a council, to make sure that we are welcoming, that we've got a great climate for business, both attraction and expansion. So those three things.
Excellent. Mayor Hermosillo, same question as El Mirage is entering a new phase, hopefully moving towards the end of the pandemic, we hope. How is the city addressing kind of coming out of what's been a difficult, I don't know the exact time frame of how we want to quantify it, but a year to 18 months?
Yeah, I feel like Mayor Hall really hit the nail on the head with all the issues that he highlighted, because those are similar issues that we are facing within our city. But I also want to echo the labor shortage that we're experiencing not only in our city, but in the West Valley. And so the city of El Mirage is working with many partners such as WestMec and our community colleges to address workforce development issues. And I see this as being one of the biggest challenges in El Mirage region, since we've attracted so many new non-retail developments.
Yeah, and both of you mentioned education and kind of workforce, right? With Ottawa, with WestMec, with the challenge that employers have, especially with some of our businesses in the West Valley, some of the higher tech jobs, some of the higher tech manufacturing. Yeah, working in higher education, I can tell you, you're absolutely spot on there. It's what employers are trying to figure out. If we go somewhere, we're going to be able to have a workforce, because it's challenging everywhere. And so they are looking for that as a strategic advantage. And I know the Northwest Valley is definitely in a great spot with our demographics and what we have to offer for workforce. So glad to hear both of you talking about that. Mayor LeVault, same thing for Youngtown.
Well, I can sum up my philosophy of government vis-a-vis business in a way that I know Raul has heard me say this many times before. I believe the role of government in terms of promoting commerce is to create the most fertile commercial environment that you can, and then frankly, get the hell out of the way and let business run itself. And I understand we have to have some regulations. I get that. But government in general tends to be overbearing and over-regulating, if you will, sometimes. So that's my philosophy in that regard. And then I think regarding this labor shortage, I think it's important that our schools continue to, and in some cases actually begin to focus on the STEM disciplines. We're doing a really good job as a region in attracting the higher paying, high tech kinds of jobs that are eventually going to serve this state and this region very well. But one of the first questions that a large high tech business looking to come to Arizona is going to ask is, do you have a ready, willing, and able workforce that's trained, ready to step into the jobs? And it's important that we continue to focus on that. And then Youngtown, like I said, we continue to pursue a good old-fashioned conservative principles, but we're a small cog in a big machine called the Greater Phoenix region. And in a sense, that region is only going to be as good and successful as its weakest link. And so I've chosen personally to get involved in some great regional organizations like MAG, GPEC, Valley Metro, Westmark, places that really are looking at things from more of a 30,000 foot level. Now, don't get me wrong, all of us as mayors have to be somewhat jealous of our own and protective of our own local jurisdictions. I get that. But I think we do a really excellent job, especially here in the West Valley, of working together as communities to try and pursue that greater goal of making the West Valley the best possible place to live that it can be.
Yeah, and all of you, it sounds like there's been a common theme of almost like a back to basics. Make sure that small businesses are empowered, right? To just give them some runway, since they've got so many headwinds going against them right now with workforce challenges, with shifts in the economy that have come out of the pandemic and just the pandemic itself. So love to hear the support there for our small business community. So let's continue talking about economic development. And some of you may have given some of this, I heard some stuff here on economic development. I want to hear about the biggest issue with economic development. If you already shared what you think is the biggest issue, share a different one. Share the second biggest issue that you're facing right now with economic development that you want people to know about, and how you're addressing it. Let's go first to Mayor Hermosillo on this one. What's El Mirage facing with economic development, and how are you looking to solve that?
Yeah, so right now, El Mirage is getting new developments while we are transferring our water and sewer rights to the southern part of our city to Epcor Water for the Copper Wing Logistics Center. And because of this, the city includes Epcor on future development plans in this area. And the city has a great relationship with Epcor and Donna Flong Properties to ensure the future developments in Copper Wing Logistics in Copper Wing, so that they have the infrastructure they need. And so the transferring of the water is the issue, but because of our relationships and our desire to make sure that this is a streamlined process is the way that we are addressing it.
All right. Mayor LeVault.
Well, as I said earlier, we're really focused on enhancing quality of life for residents and frankly for our businesses as well. For example, we're in process of pouring some 80,000 linear feet of sidewalks and bike ped paths inside Youngtown just to make us that much more accessible. Our infrastructure is all pretty modern, in fact, very modern, pretty well maintained. And so we have small businesses opening, almost every week. We get one or two new small businesses coming to Youngtown. In terms of the large projects. We just don't have the land mass for that. We have a couple of subdivisions in the pipeline that are going to generate about a 10% bump in population. But like I said, we're looking at ways that we can help play a role regionally. I don't have to worry about competing for, as I said earlier, new stadium, new shopping centers, new industrial complexes. But if I can help El Mirage or Surprise in some way, my residents are well located to take advantage of those facilities. So that's how we look at it. We try and do our job in terms of staying debt-free and low tax. We're well located to be anywhere in the valley, certainly in the Northwest Valley quickly. And so we support everything going on around us.
And Mayor Hall, you mentioned a few, I think, challenges. You mentioned water before, like as Mayor Hermosillo did. Other challenges for economic development that you're addressing in Surprise.
Yeah, the two that really come to mind, Chris, is one, our city management, our economic development department, and our city council. We are all trying to get our minds around the effect of the Taiwanese chip maker at 17 and 303. It's 16 minutes from Surprise. Driving the speed limit, Mike. Okay. Anyway, so they're going to need thousands of engineers, as an example. Okay, I've heard the number. I don't even want to repeat it because it just seems, but it's thousands of engineers. Okay, so Ottawa's going to have a role in that, I think, in training some of those engineers. I really do. And so it's back to workforce development, like Mayor Hermosillo was saying. Workforce development is going to be huge to supply the labor that TSMC, that's the name of the company, is going to require. They've already started hiring, and they're training a lot of their people in Taiwan. But as this thing unfolds, they bought 1,000 acres. So the first phase is going to be $3.5 billion, but ultimately it'll be a $35 billion investment. I mean, it'll make the Phoenix and the state of Arizona the chip-making capital of the world, I think. With Intel down in Chandler expanding, what they're doing. So we're trying to just get our minds around it, because a lot of those people are going to live in Surprise or want to live in Surprise because it's going to be closed. But also there's going to be suppliers and supply chain people. They're already looking at our industrial complex, and they're probably looking in El Mirage also, because it's not that far away. Anyway, so with that comes infrastructure, our transportation corridors, okay, our water, back to water again. So that's one, the TSMC effect, we call that. Number two is we have got a development coming online within the next year of 890,000 square feet of retail and restaurants at Waddell in 303. Okay. Workforce again. Okay. I think Janine told me that 890,000 square feet is equivalent to about 15 grocery stores. Okay. So there's going to be big boxes, there's going to be restaurants, there's going to be entertainment, all those kind of things. So they're going to require labor force. And so that's going to be a biggie. And then back to infrastructure. We're going to have to do some more road work there to accommodate and enable that. So those are two big things that are facing us right now in the city of Surprise that we're working on daily. So.
Yeah, and I think you brought up a huge one, that with the chip maker there, the semiconductor that's moving in. I think people think of that saying, well, it's going off the 17, it's North Phoenix, it's Glendale, Peoria, but in reality, like you said, with that 303, it's Surprise, it's Youngtown, and it's El Mirage, because those are the bedroom communities, and they're not just bedroom communities, but those are where people are going to be looking. And you're right. If anyone's on this call and you don't understand, this is a seismic shift in the global economy coming into Arizona, because these chips really power just about every industry and every product line that we buy today. That's necessary for how normal people live their days. And Taiwan has dominated that space. And having this move into Arizona is a big shift, and it will change, as you said, Skip, the job landscape in this part of Arizona and just in the state in general, as that entire supply chain starts to evaluate how do we get closer to them, and how do we bring those jobs. And so I can tell you a little anecdote. Like I said, I just moved. I sold a house in Surprise. I bought a house in Surprise, and I actually sat down with a wife and I said, you know, maybe I should wait a year to sell, because that chip maker means lots of high income jobs coming in, and they're going to be shopping in Surprise. And so again, if you think the market's hot now, wait until you have an entire supply chain moving in to this part of the valley. So great future ahead for this part of the valley. It's going to mean a lot of great things. And I love that we have city councils and cities that are thinking ahead, because it's an investment equivalent to 3 years of the entire state budget of Arizona that they're putting into that one development. So, and I like to tell people, size-wise, Disneyland's like 40 acres. They just bought 1,000. So it's big. All right, let's talk about another thing that happened in Arizona this year. And I want to get all of your perspective. And I know you were all three involved in various ways. And that is the change in the tax landscape. We had a fairly large change come to the legislature this year in the tax landscape. With what's been dubbed a flat tax. It's not truly necessarily a complete flat tax. There's more than one tax rate still in Arizona. But I know that each of you in your cities weighed in at different points in the process and helped shape this legislation so that it's beneficial to all Arizonans, beneficial to the city, since there's some impacts there to city budgets and how things work. So I'd just love to hear from each of you on your thoughts on that, and make sure that any credit that's due, because I know the legislature passed it, but all of you had input on what ultimately came to be there. And so make sure that you know, the business owners and the residents understand that there was a lot of city involvement as well, even if you weren't the ones casting a vote downtown. So I'm going to start with Mayor LeVault. Your thoughts on this, feedback that you gave to your legislatures, and how your city helped move this through the process, and what it means for Youngtown.
Well, again, generally, I'm almost always going to come down on the side of making the tax burden as light as possible on the taxpayer. You know, we have to be careful to do things in a thoughtful way. Sometimes legislation that gets passed not only accomplishes intended consequences, but also some unthought out unintended consequences. One of the big challenges we faced with this flat tax was how do we implement that without crippling cities and towns with a severe reduction in state shared revenue. And I was a little surprised that it was so hard to hammer out a deal, and it took so long. As you know, our legislature was in session almost until that drop dead deadline of midnight, June 30th. They weren't there quite that long, but almost. It took a long time, and it was an extremely hard road to hoe, if you will, to try and get that deal made. I'm glad they did it. I think there are some other things that we can look at, some other ways that we can look at that would be a little less burdensome for taxpayers. But again, we have to do it in a thoughtful way. And that was our biggest challenge there, was making sure that if the flat tax was implemented, it wasn't done in a way that crippled our municipalities.
Yeah, I know that's where I heard from a lot of the cities, from some of you, from some of your government affairs and public policy teams, and definitely saw some heavy legwork to help just work out that deal. And it was you're right, it was not necessarily always a smooth process, and not everyone likes to know how the sausage is made, but at the end, you know, I think it's important to all the residents and business owners to know that the cities are involved in having a voice in that process. Mayor Hall, do you wanted to share anything about that and city surprise role?
Yes, it was when this bill was being considered, our intergovernmental person, Jody Tass, was all over it, and she was communicating with us almost on a daily basis. So myself and council people were calling legislators and saying, look, the flat tax, we're for the flat tax, okay? We don't want to fight you on that. It's just that you got to help us backfill the loss to the cities with our state shared revenue. And so the state shared revenue is 15% of the income tax revenue comes back to the cities shared with us, okay? So it was going to cost our city a lot of money. And so it was raised to 18%, which pretty much almost makes us whole. It's close, okay, depending on what study you look at. But if it hadn't been for Jody and her, I mean, she was on it every day, and reminding us who to call and where she was running into problems, you know, and I'm sure Mike and Alexis had the same thing, you know, that some of our legislators were like, well, you know, tough. It's just, we want this flat tax, and, you know, well, if the city's got to buckle up a little bit. Well, gee, Christmas, you know, that's easy to say, except that 50% of our budget is police and fire. City of Surprise. Okay, and so you got to be careful about where you're going to, you know, well, just cut your budget and whatever. Okay, we're closest to the residents. We're the ones that service the residents on the most frequent basis. So you got to be careful about cutting our budget. And so they finally got the message. They really did, most of them. And luckily, they got a backfill program for us. So that's, but if it hadn't been for Intergov, Jody, it might not have had the energy that if she wasn't with us, would have maybe dissipated. But because she was so energetic about it and reminding us to call and write and whatever, we were able to move the needle. And but like Mike said, it was a lot tougher than you would think. I mean, you'd think it makes sense that when you do the math, what the cities were going to lose impacting their local budgets. Well, okay, that seems kind of simple. Can't we work together on that? No, it was difficult. It was very difficult. And so that's my input on it.
Yeah, and that's why I brought the topic up. I don't know that everybody, they see that part of it. They see maybe the end result and they think, oh, the legislature and the governor, you know, they did this work, but they don't always realize there's other stakeholders behind the scenes,
Exactly.
making sure the final product is good for everybody. So, you know, I'm a big advocate of good government, meaning, you know, that everyone's, as much as we can, playing nice together and getting a good result. And not just doing the first thing we thought of. So, Mayor Hermosillo, any thoughts on this, or other things you'd want to point out from El Mirage and from your city's perspective?
Yeah, so first of all, I share very similar sentiments and experiences as Mayor LeVault and Mayor Hall. I myself also had very difficult conversations with our legislators to let them know the impact that this would have, not only on the city of El Mirage, but on the region, because I feel I go back to, you know, we look out for each other. And so all of the cities were going to be impacted by this. But I'm very, very grateful for the leadership and the impact that the League of Arizona Cities and Towns had on this issue. They were there every step of the way. And I'm very grateful for Mayor Carlat for her leadership as the chair and spearheading the efforts that she did to ensure that we had a fair voice at the table and that we were looking forward to next steps. And so it was a very difficult conversation and issue to tackle. But again, I'm very much looking forward to how we can just go from here.
Well, hopefully the small businesses, the residents understand that when their tax burden is lower, moving forward from the state of Arizona income tax standpoint, that the mayors and the cities had a role in helping that to happen, as well as making sure the city's services and other things that need to be protected were also looked out for. So we're going to go ahead and give you each a minute to really take the floor anything you haven't had a chance to say that you want to make sure that gets said today, I'll give you that minute to close, and then we will wrap things up with our 2021 Mayor Fireside Chat. So, Mike, Mayor LeVault, I'm going to give you the chance to go first on this. Final thoughts.
Well, I would just once again want to push a little bit harder on the regional aspect. I think in the West Valley, the mayors all have a great relationship. We meet once a month at a dinner in an environment where we can say things there that we probably might not be able to say in other venues. But we work together well. I want to make or actually elaborate on a point that Skip made. When you look at what I call the bread and butter services, that is police, fire, roads, streets, parks, libraries, that's us. That's the cities and towns. That's not the county. That's not the state. And I think in general, our cities do a pretty darn good job of governing. We have a little less latitude than the states, and certainly a lot less latitude than the federal government in terms of balancing budgets and building in our foundational documents. But I think it's important that we continue to work together in the West Valley and frankly in the entire greater Phoenix region to make our region the best that it can be. And that means a whole bunch of things from all the way from transportation on through education that's going to continue to provide that workforce. The more successful we are in working with each other, the better off we will all be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Hermosillo.
Yes, I want to finish off with putting an important event on everyone's radars and on people's calendars. In just a few days, on August 23rd, we will be breaking ground on the new library, which is going to be located on Almirage Road, right next to our fire station. And we are very proud of this project because of our strong relationship with the Maricopa County and the Maricopa County Library District. And with the county's assistance, we will increase the size of our library from 2,500 square feet to approximately 6,100 square feet. And that will include a 1,100 square foot programming room. And our programming room will provide educational opportunities for our residents. And so I'm particularly excited about this program or this project because I remember many years ago as a kid, I would visit our library very frequently. It was a very impactful and influential part of my childhood. And so to know that we're going to create a better facility for residents is just very exciting.
Love to hear it. Same here. When I was a kid, the library was an important place. So glad to hear that you got more access for families here in El Mirage. Mayor Hall, final thoughts for today.
Just very quickly, one of the things that's really pressing on the city council right now is that we've got our city manager is retiring in January 7th. And so we just started the recruiting and vetting process of placing a new city manager to take Mike Frazier's place. He's done a great job for us, and we need to continue that. So we have 51 applicants. And so we're going through, our consultant is going through the applications, and we're setting up a subcommittee on the council to review all the applications. And we're looking to have 3 or 4 finalists in town on the 28th and 29th of September. We've set up panels of stakeholders, and I meant to mention to Mike LeVault, we want him on one of the panels. Because we want to have a mayor panel of, just like Mike was saying, the cities work so well together. I want the mayors of the city to have some input into who we choose as a city manager. So, and then just back to job growth. That's our big thing, Chris, is we're working on job growth. Primary jobs, head of household jobs. That's a big thing because so many of our residents leave surprised to go to work. And we want to turn that around. So those are a couple of things that are pressing on us right now. So,
well, thank you all for being here. I love hearing the updates. I love hearing the theme that I heard today over and over was cooperation, regional focus, and seeing what all of you are doing to help the Northwest Valley and each of your cities grow and and just make them better quality of life for the residents and the small businesses here. Raul, I'm going to toss it back over to you and allow you to get the final few seconds to close us out.
Yeah, well, awesome. Well, first of all, thank you, Chris, for moderating today's call, and a special thank you to our 3 mayors for attending this informative session. It's very reassuring to see that we have such competent as well as passionate leadership at the helm of our key anchor communities here. I also wanted to thank all the audience for attending today's presentation. As I mentioned at the start, today's video will be uploaded on the Chamber's YouTube channel as well as Facebook. So we wanted to invite you to share and like those videos accordingly. Two upcoming events, real briefly. I think one of the things that we heard, Chris, and from our mayors is the importance of workforce development and education and how those two work hand in hand. Our September 14th convener event, which will be an in-person event, which will be held at Westmec, will deal with that subject. It'll be our annual education and workforce development update. And so we'll be hearing from Ottawa University, Westmec, Dysart Independent School District, and a private charter school to have some more engaging conversation. And so hopefully the mayors will get to see you guys there as well. The other thing is, since we're talking about our elected officials, the Chamber just added a new event for this December. It's going to be our annual Meet the Elected Officials Coffee Hour. It's going to be attended by Chamber members, including board members, Government Relations Committee members, business professionals, and of course, all the elected officials, both at the federal, state, and local level. So it's going to be an excellent opportunity for local businesses to network and get to meet our elected officials. So with that, I'd like to thank everybody for attending our meeting today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.